Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Virginia and U.S. history. So, today we're going to be looking at the first attempt at democracy after winning the revolution and the steps that would come after this first attempt to get us to the Constitution in which we have today. So, starting out, let us start talking about this. So, during the constitutional era, we have the Americans make two attempts to establish a working government on Republican principles. The first one we talk about was a failure. All right. This is the Articles of Confederation. Political leaders, during this time, they feared a strong central government that would be like England's, how Parliament is the center of everything. So people in America didn't want that. So they're going to create the Articles of Confederation, and it was the adopted government at the end of the Revolutionary War. So the Articles, this form of government was designed to be weak, to prevent it being tyrannical over the people, basically being abusive to the people. So most of the power would be shared with the states. That's where most of the power was. It was like a 80% to 20% type of ratio. So the government under the Articles had no power to tax or regulate any type of commerce, no ability to create a common currency, so individual states had their own currencies, and each state had one vote on nationwide issues, regardless of how big the population was, how big the actual physical size of it was, made no difference. One vote. There was no executive branch, so no president, and there was no judicial branch, so no Supreme Court. The only branch of government there was legislative, which is basically Congress, but it was only one house, so it was just like a single House of Representatives, or just the Senate, nothing else. The Senate is more accurate, but nothing else. It was extremely difficult to pass laws, and it was literally impossible to make any amendments to laws because it basically had to be a unanimous vote. If you get anything that's like five people or more together, there's always going to be someone that disagrees. So imagine what it is when it comes to enacting laws and policy. It's impossible to get unanimous decisions. And it was also super weak, the articles, because of how much power was given to the states, obviously. So, and another reason why the Articles of Confederation is going to fail is because the territory that it governed over was much too big for a weak government to be in charge. So the economy was in terrible shape. The states are having border disputes and they're fighting over who has what territory, things like that. And with there being no standard currency, like I might have say $10,000 in Virginia money, but if I want to travel to Pennsylvania, I might not have $10,000 there. I might only have the equivalent of $8,000 there. So like there's nothing consistent, and consistency is something that people really need during a big change like this, like the forming of a new country. You need something that's more solid and consistent. So in 1787, a convention is going to be held to make changes to the Articles of Confederation to make it work better. All the states send a representative except for Rhode Island. And if you know your American geography, like I hope you guys do, you would know that Rhode Island is the single tiniest state that there is. Land size, population wise, it is tiny. Under the Articles of Confederation, This is the only way that they are equal to the other states with political power. Because if you look at Rhode Island now, they don't have a lot of representatives in the House, and they don't have a lot of electoral votes when it comes to election time. All right. So, what they're going to do is they're basically just going to decide, like, all right, let's take the articles and throw it in the trash can and start all over again. So now it is the road to our modern government through compromises that had to be made to make it successful. Now, this Congress that is being held, Washington is going to be the one who oversees everything at the convention, and he's not really going to participate in a lot of anything, but just the fact that he is present, the fact that he is there, like showing support by just sitting in the room, carries a lot of weight behind it, which is going to be very important for politicians as well as the regular people of America. Because George Washington, he's a national hero. He's the guy who led us through the revolution. He's the guy that won the war. Everybody loves this guy in America. So the fact that he's giving support to this new government that's being written up carries a huge amount of weight with it. All right. Another important person we have is James Madison, another Virginian, just like Washington. He is a political philosopher. He would lead a lot of debate, and he kept a ton of notes. We know basically all the details of this constitutional convention because of James Madison. He took notebook after notebook of highly detailed notes, and it's just like this plethora of knowledge on what happened. All right. He is going to author what is called the Virginia Plan. This is basically a proposal that the federal government would have three branches: the legislative, executive, and judicial, which would become the foundation of the Constitution. And he is later going to write the Bill of Rights. That's a big deal right there. That's the first 10 amendments. So it shows that the system works. He's the guy who comes up with a lot of stuff that gets formed into the government. All right. Now, the Constitution of the United States establishes a government that shares power between national government and state governments, and it protects the rights of the states and provides a system of orderly change through amendments to the Constitution itself. All right, so it has everything in place. Like, these are state powers, these are federal powers, no one steps on anyone's toes. If a law needs to be added in or changed, this is the process to do it. It's clear cut. Everyone should know what the rules are. Now, federal law, some key issues that we have here. Federal law, we have the supreme law of the land. So basically, whatever the federal government says is like final, and that is laid out in the Constitution. If it's not laid out in the Constitution, it basically gets the states leeway to make their own rules up about an issue. One of the best examples that I can give is like the legalization of marijuana. Federal government does not declare whether it's legal or illegal for the country, but that is something that has been left up to individual states. All right, balance of power. It's between large and small states. So a way to keep that balance is having the Senate, where each state gets 2 senators. There's your equality for the small states. And you have the House of Representatives, which the membership there is based on population. So you have equality in one, you have one based on population. You have both types of states what they want. The big states like population being taken into account. Small states like it being equal numbers in the House, well, in the Senate. And this is called the Great Compromise because we have both systems that the different types of states want. And they agree, they're like, okay, if they have this, then we have that. And those two governing bodies have to agree for laws to be passed, essentially. So, kind of works out that way. Another issue is when it comes to the House of Representatives is how does the slave population get counted? Do the small states do not believe that slaves should be counted as part of the population because they're slaves. They're not, free citizens. And the slaves owning states, they want the slaves to be counted in the population because, they're people, and it would get them more seats in the House of Representatives to help them get laws that they want passed. So the 3/5 compromise is come up with, and that's basically every individual slave counts as 3/5 of a person, or for it to make more sense, 3 out of every 5 slaves counts towards the population of these slave states, the slave owning states, for them to get seats in the House of Representatives. So some slaves are being counted, but not all of them. That's the compromise. Right. Another one. To avoid a government becoming too powerful, we have the 3 branches of government, the separation of powers. The legislative branch, they make the laws, and that is our Congress. The executive branch that enforces our laws, and that's the president, and the judicial branch that interprets the laws, and that is the courts. And they follow what is called checks and balances. They all keep each other in check to make sure that not one branch becomes too powerful and starts abusing their powers. They all have to get approvals from the other two. So Congress can't do anything without the approval of the president or the courts, and the president can't do anything without approval of Congress or the courts, and the courts can't do anything without the approval of the president and Congress. Right. So the Constitution that is written by James Madison, and you've got all these other people involved, it is going to limit the power of the federal government to those that are identified, those that are specifically pointed out in the Constitution. And this is so that the government, and also so that the government can make changes and adapt to the times by adding the ability to put amendments into the Constitution. So, because they wanted this system to last. So they're going to make it be able to evolve with the people who are living in the country at whatever time it may be. All right, that is where we're going to end today. Nice shorter one this time. Come back next time and we will just keep on going into more details on the Constitution. We'll be looking more at the Bill of Rights next time, if I'm not mistaken. All right, talk to you then.